This is the pottery of Carla Nampeyo and her husband Reuel. And there's such an interesting conversion of different pottery styles that are happening in their pottery. And really we have to go back quite a few centuries in looking at the pottery that was happening in the Rio Grande area of New Mexico and then in the area of the Hopi villages. Um, At the village of Hano, there at First Mesa and Palaka, what you have is a tremendous number of people migrated over to the Hopi villages from um, the Rio Grande area. So side by side now for centuries is that you've had these two cultures, the Tiwa people that were there who speak a Tannoan-based language, and then you have the Hopi people that speak a Uto-Aztecan language. And so they converge right there in the First Mesa area. And it was Carla's great-grandmother, Nampeyo, who is largely credited for bringing back a certain style that now is greatly recognized as classic Hopi pottery, but realizing that Nampeyo was coming from this Tiwa background. And in fact, when she was looking at the type of pottery that she could create, she was conflicted because she was really discouraged to create the Hopi style pottery, and so then they looked at how she could, or she saw and was exposed to these beautiful Sikyaki pieces of pottery, and that really is where she launched the style that we truly recognize as the Nampeyo style. This, in fact, is done by Tonita Nampeyo, who is one of Nampeyo's granddaughters, and this is Carla's aunt. And this is a classic design right here. This what they call a migration pattern with the feathers at the end of the design, and this is really what they'll either call it Palaka polychrome or Sikyaki revival pottery, but this is that classic design. And so this is the tradition in which Carla was raised, and in their family you would see where Nampeyo taught 3 of her daughters, and then in the next generation there were more that picked up the tradition, and so now you're in the great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren of Nampeyo who have taken that beautiful foundation and really created their own styles of pottery. Now Carla is unique too, and part of what I really like about Carla's work is that she took the influence from her great-grandmother, but her father Thomas was credited with bringing this beautiful carved style of pottery into the Hopi pottery pantheon. And so he would create, and now Carla, learning from her father, create these wonderful deep carved designs that often would feature kachina figures. This one has the butterflies, but just wonderful representations of the Katsina people. It evolved into another design aspect of their pottery. And the other thing that is so interesting in the painted forms is, people really, if you think about it, you can compare it to what was happening in Cubism, because you have these design elements such as feathers, and you have rain clouds, or you have the kachina figures, but where they were really reduced and rearranged to fit the pottery form. So you really have this very abstract design manifestation happening in this pottery. So sometimes when people like to say, oh, it's very old and traditional, and yet these artists were really, I think, twisting and bending what design representation really could mean. So Carla started making her pottery in the mid-70s. She met her husband Reuel, and Reuel is Dene, and over the years of being there with Carla, it's very common that a couple will work together. They'll go out and they'll dig the clay. They may be working the clay. Well, Reuel started working with Carla and developing his own pots. But here you have again where Reuel is not Hopi, he's not Tiwa, so he's in that same situation that Nampeyo was in 100 years previous, is now what can I do to represent who I am and who I'm from. And so what Reuel does on his pottery is he brings in the Navajo Hopi people to his pots. So for example, you get to see these beautiful curving yay figures, which again, it's that idea that you have a form, the three-dimensional form of the pot, and then the two-dimensional design, and you make it work in the way that fits with the pottery, and you end up having another manifestation of pottery design that started many centuries ago and now has evolved into this wonderful and varied pottery made by Carla and Reuel today.